G'day guys, Mr. Predictable here. Today we're going to take a look at Final Fantasy XIV. More specifically, what is the game and is it actually any fun? Let's dive into it. So Final Fantasy XIV. It's an MMORPG set in the Final Fantasy universe. It's going to cost you $19.99 US, that's for the base game, and $39.99 US for the expansion Stormblood. Now that includes the Heavensward expansion pack with it as well. So in Australian dollars it's going to run you a pretty penny, about 77 odd Australian dollars all up at the time of recording, of course. So the game itself is the 14th installment in the Final Fantasy universe, but it's also sort of like Final Fantasy 14.5. This game was released back in 2011 or 2010. Sorry, got that wrong there. 2010. Re-released. Sorry, it was closed down in 2012 due to a pretty critical reviews by its audience. It was then re-released in 2013 as Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Now, when it was re-released, it got much better reviews. It was a lot of the issues that were in the initial game were fixed. However, we're not going to delve into that too much today, or even at all, because that's not what this video is about. This video is about the current state of the game, and is it actually any fun to play? Alright, when you roll a new character in Final Fantasy XIV, you'll be prompted with 9 separate classes that you can play. Gladiator, Marauder, Pugilist, Lancer, Archer, Conjurer, Thaumaturge, Arcanist, and Rogue. Each of these fit into their own main category, which is a Disciple of War or a Disciple of Magic. And that dictates the specific gear sets that they can wear. It's sort of like your basic cloth, leather, and plate, and they fit into sort of different areas of those. But they're not really into those classes of cloth, leather, or plate. I'm just using that for a reference point. Like in World of Warcraft, you have your different types of gear that you can wear as different classes, and that's how it's split up. Once you pick your base class, you've got 15 jobs that you can split up into. I'm not going to delve into those too much because there's 15 of them and there's frankly far too much information to go into there. Now, the awesome thing with these classes is that you can play pretty much every class on a single character. They just have their own gear sets and their own levels. Now, some of the classes, or some of the jobs, sorry, you won't be able to play as a single character because they require a base class. For example, there's a job called the Bard. You can only get Bard if you play an Archer at level 30. Scholar, you can only play Scholar if you get a Arcanist to level 30 as well. There is a sub-job of that specific class. So, most classes you will be able to play on a single character. Alright, on to the main crux of the game, questing. So it's kind of what Final Fantasy is known for. It's been what's in the main games for as long as I can remember, even though I haven't played them all. I do know that questing is pretty much the main crux of the game, and pretty much the main crux of any MMO on the planet these days. However, unlike many MMOs that I've played, the quest will be explained to you in a long conversation style, so they'll have pop-up boxes that you sort of click through and read to understand what this guy or gal is getting you to do, and what you do need to do to complete the quest. Most MMOs sort of share an issue this game has is where the side quests that you have to go and do are pretty much forgettable, and I don't think there's any real way around that this game can do, because you're just not invested. I mean, it's a quest that you run and kill some stuff and then come back and the guy's like, cool, here's 100 gil, thanks. That's where this game shines out from other MMOs, where the main story is one that gripped me from start to where I am now. I'm not finished it, but I'm very invested in it. The story and class-based quests, that is, they're extremely well done. Only a handful of the story quests are voiced, but you feel like you're an important part, an important cog in this world. And without you, this world's going to be up shit creek without a paddle, really. I mean, there's a handful of really strong people that can change the world and kill these monsters that are terrorizing the entirety of Eorzea. But without you, they would be well and truly screwed. So dungeons are an extremely strong point for this game. They're extremely well set out, so they're easy enough to follow, but it's not just a straight corridor that you run down and you kill bosses and then you're done. They actually have specific criteria you need to do to unlock a gate, so you can get to the next boss. And if you don't have your head screwed on, not necessarily the entire way, but even slightly, you're going to get lost and you're going to be kind of screwed. Luckily enough, I had pretty experienced groups the entire way that I was running through, so people knew what they were doing and sort of walked me through it. But if I didn't, I'd surely need to be communicating with my team for the entire time to understand what I needed to do. The bosses as well, they require specific mechanics to be followed, otherwise you're going to wipe. In an instance that I was doing the other day, for example, there were runes on the ground in the room, and the boss would cast this ability on you called Doom, and if your entire party didn't work together and get onto those runes together, you were going to wipe and people were going to die. So these sort of things require a bit of mechanic behavior to go on, so you need to be able to work together as a team. And it sort of brings the game away from being just a mindless tank and spank MMO to something that is pretty engaging and makes it quite fun. Another thing this game does in dungeons is its limit breaks. So if you're an experienced fan of Final Fantasy, limit breaks are something that have been done in other games. It's an extremely powerful ability that the party builds over time in the instance, and any character in that instance can unleash this limit break, and it unleashes an extremely powerful attack based on your class. So if you're a melee DPS, you unleash your limit break. It's a single target high damage ability, and it does really high damage, and it looks awesome. If you're a ranged DPS, it's an area of effect blast that kills a lot of things in a small area. Really good for trash mobs that just take a fair while to get through. If you're a healer, it's a certain area that does a massive heal and brings everyone back up to a nice level of health. And if you're a tank, it does a protect on everyone in the party, so like puts a shield up in front of them and prevents incoming damage by a large amount. So this is one of those other abilities that makes you feel really powerful as a class, and gives you a bit more of an identity. So overall, if we look at the gameplay, this game is an extremely fun MMO. Each class and job has its own identity and its own unique spells that make you feel powerful and make you feel like that class you're playing. I'm a ninja, I can throw shurikens and I can use ninjutsu and I can play a ninja. Combat is engaging and it's extremely active. You need to be watching for enemy abilities and dodge to mitigate large bulks of incoming damage, otherwise you're going to die a lot over and over again. You also need to stun and silence enemy casters, because you need to prevent them from healing themselves, otherwise that fight's going to take a hell of a lot longer. You need to stop their casters from making big meteors come down on you, because that's going to hurt you a hell of a lot. But they all have their own way to deal, each class has its own way to deal huge amounts of damage and look awesome. The spell effects in this game are second to none. They are fantastic. In the gameplay that I've got going on behind this commentary, you'll see that some of the spell effects just look fantastic. And the game is far from a game where you just mash buttons and see pretty things and big numbers come up on the screen. Some classes require combo effects, so you need to combo and string certain abilities together to get the most out of your damage and the most out of your character. Each class has its own resource that it needs to manage and use effectively, otherwise their damage is going to go down. All of this together just means that you need to be aware of the fight and aware of what you're doing, otherwise you're going to get pretty bored and not be amazing. So now we've looked at the good, let's look a little bit at the bad. So PvP is pretty much the only area that I didn't have any fun in. I had a very limited time with it because I just couldn't push myself to play it. But it's when you enter a PvP match, or start from the start. When you enter a PvP match, your stats are standardized and you're given a standard set of abilities for your class or your role. This makes the playing field even, of course, which is great because you don't want one guy coming in there with the top of the range gear and just trounce everyone. But it also feels like my class identity is taken away from me, and I feel like just an ant in an otherwise massive hill with many other ants. The only battle I did get into was an 8v8 match that felt like an absolute cluster truck of people just smashing their bodies together to try and push each other back to their bridge. From what I've been told, the PvP in the other arenas or battles is a lot more engaging and a lot more objective based, but from what I experienced on this one, it just wasn't too much fun, and it just felt like a lot of smashing people together to try and push each other back and get a couple more kills. So to wrap up, Final Fantasy XIV is an extremely fun MMORPG that makes you feel powerful and like an integral cog in the story, which by the way is absolutely enchanting, and I'm loving every single minute of it. The game is not without its issues, but I feel like the issues are far outweighed by the good stuff in this game and the enjoyment that I'm getting out of it. Now, if you will excuse me, there is a primal on the loose that I need to go and put to rest. Until next time, guys, see ya.